Hello, everyone. We are so excited to have you join us for the College and Career Readiness Webinar Series. My name is Chelsea Hunt, and I am the Executive Director of Work-Based Learning and Industry Engagement at the State Department, and I will be your moderator for this session. Today, we will discuss what does it look like ahead for college and career readiness in 2021, and really what is the purpose of these webinar series. We will talk about some current and available college and career readiness resources for you. And we will also hear from our guest presenter today, Beverly Woodrome, who is the mentoring advocate and consultant for Mentor for OK, and learn more about that organization. And we will conclude with the webinar series, how it'll go. I will present, then Beverly will present, and then we'll come back for a webinar recap and have a Q&A session, and I'll help field any questions that you may have for Beverly or myself. This session is being recorded, and we will send out the links to the presentation and the recording to everyone who joined us today. The College and Career Readiness Series will run from today until June 2021. It's so nice to say that. Happy New Year, by the way. And it'll be occurring every third Thursday of each month. We will hear from a variety of guest speakers from a variety of career fields. They will share their best practices on individual career academic planning, fondly known as ICAP, of course, academic counseling, work-based learning, career exploration, post-secondary opportunities, and so much more. What's ahead in 2021? Mark your calendars for the Oklahoma Career Exposure Week, which will be held on March 1st through the 5th of 2021. This is a great opportunity for school districts and students to attend virtually and hear from various industry leaders and learn more about their career path and their career fields. We will have some examples of questions that school districts can share with their students in advance to be able to ask these industry leaders once they have them in their face-to-face moment. All updates about Oklahoma Career Exposure Week will be disseminated in our College and Career Readiness newsletter and agency-wide newsletters. If you haven't had a chance to complete the work-based learning survey, it is due on January 21st. This survey is going to help us assess educators' knowledge on work-based learning, assess what current resources or future resources school districts would like, and also to develop a database system to further enhance school districts and industry leaders' engagement. During this time of distance learning, we have created various resources focused on college and career readiness, academic counseling, and work-based learning. These links will take you directly to those resources, and hopefully they have been helpful during these times, during this global pandemic that we have all endured together. Also, we've had questions about virtual internships, and you'll see in one of these guidance documents that virtual internships during this time of distance learning are allowed. They must follow the internship guidelines that we have set forth for in-person internships, and they also must follow CDC protocols when it comes to wearing masks, social distancing, and also recommendation for school districts to connect with those industries, those business organizations, to make sure that you adhere to their policies for COVID-19 as well when the students are on site. Oh, that is showing you what the resource guide looks like if you hadn't had an opportunity to see it. When it comes to more resources, we always say visit us on okedge.com, stay connected with us on Facebook. Of course, if you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, College and Career Readiness, you'll want to do that. That gives you the latest and greatest updates. We have transitioned that from a quarterly, monthly newsletter to now a monthly newsletter to stay further engaged with each of you. And then, of course, stay updated on any of the COVID-19 resources for Oklahoma Public Schools. We've had the opportunity to create some learning modules so that school districts and students are able to have, and industry leaders are able to have even more access now living in through a virtual space. There is the College and Career Readiness module, there's a work-based learning module, and then there's a community connections module. when it comes to the work-based learning module, students are able to explore there, watch a plethora of career videos, take some different quizzes and assessments, and learn even more about work-based learning. We have a code. Each of those modules can be assessed on our OK Edge platform. The College and Career Readiness and the Community Connections doesn't require a code to get access. You would just get on the site, hit add, and then search for either of those modules and then hit redeem and you're on it. The work-based learning does require a code, but you can reach out to me. What's really good about the work-based learning module as well, since we are inviting students to it and to keep that privacy, I can even create a code specifically for your school site or your district. That way you can share it with your students and only your school would have access to it. I love this quote. It says, "We rise by lifting others up." And that is very true in this time that we are in. We recognize even more that the aspect of stronger together, but when we rise together in the area of service learning, but also in the area of mentorship. So I am so elated today to introduce you to Beverly Woodrome, who is the mentoring advocate and consultant for Mentor for Oklahoma, and share more about that. Please join us in welcoming Beverly. And Beverly, I will toss it to you now. And Beverly, if you're talking, just want to let you know you're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Chelsea, for this opportunity to talk about National Mentoring Month and mentoring in Oklahoma. And thanks to all of you for listening. I hope you have some takeaways. January is National Mentoring Month. As the bullets say, it focuses national attention on mentors and mentoring, shows how we can participate even locally in the mentoring movement, and emphasizes the positive effects mentoring has on young people. It's really a huge campaign to promote mentoring. And as a former teacher of high school and college as an adjunct, I know teachers cannot do it all by themselves. So promoting mentoring is just another way to help teachers. We're having problems moving forward here. There we go. All right, why mentor? And as you'll notice, there is a logo for a national mentoring partnership. It takes a large organization with a lot of funding to try to unify mentoring in the United States and now internationally. Potential is equally distributed. As you know, opportunity is not. A major driver of healthy development and opportunity is who you know and who's in your corner. That's connections. We do have gaps in opportunity, networks, access to adult relationships beyond families. Loneliness and isolation are trending upwards, especially during the pandemic. But you know, some of us probably were a little bit isolated before. If you really look at what you do or your students do, you may see that it's home, family, school, work, your religious institution, and that's it. And probably most people in your network look like you. So there are all kinds of loneliness forms and isolation. Relationships are powerful tools. Mentoring is building a relationship, and that unites us. The mission of Mentor, this national mentoring partnership, is to fuel the quality and quantity of mentoring relationships and to close the mentoring gap. 1 in 3 young people grow up without mentoring. That matters. We're going to hear 1 in 3 a couple of more times. And I want to mention quality is essential. You can't just get out there and have anything going on with mentoring, and quantity spreads quality. Mentor offers many services, and we will not go through all of these, but you'll notice they have campaigns. National Mentoring Month is one, of course, but they also have monthly campaigns, and it might be on LGBTQ, it might be on Youth Voice. These are on their website, but they provide promotions and materials, and they highlight mentoring techniques during those months. The National Mentoring Summit is coming up next week. Over 1,300 people have registered online. Also next week is Capitol Hill Day, and we've already received advocacy training if we're going to talk to Oklahoma's legislators. So there are so many things. Let's look a little bit though at research, mentor researches and trains. There is a huge resource library. There are webinars. There is a National Mentoring Resource Center. So many things that are offered free to small, medium, and large mentoring programs, faith-based, school-based, whatever, all over the United States and Europe. If you notice, MentorSphere is growing. Financial support is only important to share with you if you're thinking about starting a mentoring program or you have one in your area. Businesses love to fund mentoring because mentoring is workforce development. It's on top of what the schools do. So here you see some sponsors of the National Mentoring Summit that's coming up. There are many more sponsors for Mentor, but I do want to talk a little bit about OJJDP. That's the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. And that's part of the Department of Justice. OJJDP has been doing research for years, or paying for research to be done about whether or not mentoring can help prevent crime or serve as a diversion. And the data has come back, yes, it can. So the government is willing to fund many different types of mentoring programs. Money's limited, of course, but that is available. Very quickly, worldwide connecting. Mentor Canada used to be the Alberta Mentoring Partnership, and the relationship has solidified so much that now it's Mentor Canada. And you notice the logo is the same as Mentor in the United States. And in Europe, because there were so many immigrants in particular coming in as refugees, Europeans didn't quite know what to do. So they looked to the United States in mentoring to figure out, okay, what does the research say? Can we apply this? And one short example is that in Friesland, Netherlands, quite a few refugees came from Syria and from Eritrea, which is in South Africa. This was totally different from the rural area of Friesland. So they created a mentoring program for adults so that they could get the parents, the family heads, adjusted to living and making a living and understanding how to thrive. So it works for adults too. Mentoring is the same, you just adjust for the audience. And state mentoring affiliates. Oklahoma, as you notice on this map, doesn't have one, but we hope someday we will. But affiliates are big helps. They receive money from Mentor to help people in their state. And we are very lucky that Nebraska and Colorado help us. So now there are national mentoring days each month. And one of them is I'm a Mentor Day. And we just had that. Notice the nice graphics. We not only get nice graphics from Mentor that anyone can use, but we also have all kinds of digital toolkits, advocacy toolkits, and other things. We celebrated International Mentoring Day. We just did Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day of Service. And we are looking forward to celebrating Thank Your Mentor Day on the 29th. Now, you'll notice that in the Thank Your Mentor graphic, the young woman, the mentee, has Down syndrome. And this is on purpose because we know nationally and internationally that mentoring youth with disabilities makes a huge difference. They have a greater sense of belonging. They tend to stay in school, feel more confident about themselves. It's a win-win all the way around. Now, in Oklahoma, we celebrate, recruit, promote through publicity and social media, virtual or in-person events, thanking mentors in various ways, proclamations, recruitment fairs, car parades, and the Oklahoma Foundation for Excellence, which is 30 plus years old here in Oklahoma, honored Oklahoma mentors. So you can look at their website, OFE.org, and you can see this year's honorees. You also see a proclamation from Mayor Bria Clark of Norman, and she presented a proclamation on behalf of all of the approximately 30 mentoring programs, both K through 12 and college in Norman. So it was in honor of National Mentoring Month. And we see Dr. Ron Anderson from OU, Price College of Business, Bianca Gordon from Bridges of Norman, and Jeff Moody from Big Brothers Big Sisters Norman. So we really appreciated that. Why does mentoring matter? Again, there's that number, 1 out of 3 grow up without a mentor. That means they miss some advantages. Notice 55% are more likely to be enrolled in college, 52% less likely to skip a day of school, 37% less likely to skip a day of class, and 46% less likely than their peers to use drugs or to be using drugs. This matters, obviously. Again, the 1 out of 3 without a mentor. Mentored kids are 27% less likely to start drinking, 81% more likely to report participating regularly in sports or extracurricular activities, are more than 2 times as likely to say they held a leadership position in a club or sports team, and 78% more likely to volunteer regularly in their communities. So mentoring helps them become better citizens and contribute. The social return on investment, SROI, for mentoring by conservative estimates of research is $3 for every $1 spent. Now that's important. So if we could take $1 and apply it to all of those young people who grow up without mentors, then we are tripling the effect of that investment. I'm not a math whiz, so I was contacting a former student in California to check my math, but so hopefully it's correct. But again, 1 out of 3 youths under 19 grow up without a mentor. That probably means that when they're 19 through 24, 25, 26, they also don't have a mentor because they don't really know what those are. In Oklahoma, according to Kids Count data, 358,539 young people from age 5 through 24 fit this group of people without mentors. So let's apply that $1 I mentioned times 3. That means if we only invest $1 on all of those young Oklahomans, then we still make an investment of $1 million plus. Any investment in mentoring matters. That's your social return on investment. And then one other little piece of data. The per mentee cost nationally for mentoring is $1,695. The amount of money annually for one person in a juvenile prison is $112,555. Where should our investment be? Now, mentoring supplements educators. That means we add to what teachers do. Teachers are totally dedicated. They do everything they can to help their students, even outside of class. But mentoring, if crafted, customized, can add social and emotional skills, academic exploration, etc. And of course, in high school and career tech, you do a little bit different things. Mentoring and college career readiness, they go hand in hand. You have peer mentors, you have professional or alums, you have faculty or staff. It could be one-on-one, team or group. There's also coaching, which is a little bit different form of mentoring. It's a little more structured. You have leadership development, which really is mentoring on steroids. You have internships and apprenticeships. And of course, you are forming connections, introducing your mentees to others. College and career tech mentoring, student retention and completion. Obviously, we want them to stay in school, but you know what? These are skills that help in life. Grit, perseverance, mentoring helps these. Transfer of knowledge is extremely important when you are in high school, college, or career tech. Young people know things we don't, but we also know a lot of things that can help them. And of course, a lot of research substantiates the social, emotional, academic, and economic results of mentoring. And here are some examples of relationship building. There are so many ways to do it. You don't have to meet with someone every week in person. You could meet a designated number of times in person, but you could do Zoom or other things, go to events. It's very flexible, or can be. With COVID, we've had to change everything, just like with schools. So here are some examples of what you can do. Some towns, if they have older populations mentoring, then they went to pen pals, obviously. But again, there's so many ways to reach out to your mentee and be consistent, be caring, let them know you're there to support them. Finding a program, you can contact us. We are getting ready to post a list on our website, a tentative list. We know of 235 programs in Oklahoma, and we know there are more out there we're just not aware of. And you can find some programs on Mentors Mentor Connector, which is available online at mentoring.org. Starting a program, we offer free consulting. We share models and best practices. We ask, what is it you want to do? And we help you craft it. And if you're involved with schools only, I just wanted you to see that schools do, in fact, nationally sponsor mentoring programs, but you'll notice a lot of nonprofits do more, and some government agencies, higher ed. And the reason Oklahoma's higher ed is in a different font color is because Oklahoma has approximately 82 mentoring programs in higher ed. That is fantastic. I think we beat the national average. So proud of Oklahoma. Oh, and career tech is developing more mentoring programs. Overcoming school or city capacity. There are many small towns in Oklahoma which have started mentoring programs. You really just need a leader. That person then recruits a few others. You probably need someone part-time from school because you have to have a school connection. And you need the community involved in various ways, such as mentors, board, and for fundraising. State models and national models. Cheyenne Public Schools was facing the COVID threat, obviously, so they rolled out a new program, and it's called Talls and Smalls, and it's for 7th graders to peer mentor pre-K and K. And that way it's all in school. And then the principal's leadership class mentors bigs littles. And that means that the juniors and seniors are mentoring the 7th and 8th graders. And then of course we have Bears, and that's the adult mentoring program. But during COVID, they have not been coming in until things change. And then Success Mentors. This is an amazing model that's very simple. It's not like anything you've heard of before, probably. It's done by faculty and staff mentoring. It was developed during Obama's administration, President Obama's administration. And it's used by Kansas City Public Schools, Omaha Public Schools, and New York City Public Schools. It's really interesting, and it can be done in small communities. We have lots of models. Expanding mentoring also expands life readiness in so many ways. Corporations have mentoring internally. Very often there is leadership development, there are internships, and of course, life mentoring. If you just look around you, in your family, in your network, stories from the past, you will find there are many people who have been mentored, but maybe it wasn't with the word mentor. Mentoring amplifies Oklahomans' change, possibilities, futures, and discoveries. So we always want you to be a mentor, serve on a mentoring board, support local mentoring programs, seek mentors all through your life. You're never too old. There are stages of life we go through when we need someone to mentor us, and lead starting a mentoring program. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Beverly. I'm going to continue on with the series, and what we'll do, Beverly, is any questions that you have, please continue to put them in the chat. Beverly, go ahead and monitor, and if there's some you can answer via chat, go for it, but we will come back at the end and answer any questions via chat, via voice, etc. So we'll go ahead with the webinar series. Beverly, thank you so much for sharing that information. I'm always love when you speak because you bring data, but also you just share a wealth of knowledge in the area of mentorship. So I'm always grateful to have you at the table. All right, want to proceed into our webinar recap. And just again, mentorship is a type of work-based learning experience. So it is an avenue that we want students to have exposure to. Mentoring has always been near and dear to my heart. I've been able to participate as a mentor in high school to different elementary and middle school ages and even high school ages. And so that even expands beyond in my adulthood years. And so I'm always a fan of how do we connect our industry leaders and our nonprofits with our students in our school districts. So I'm hoping that you're gleaning a lot of information from this series and will continue with us. We look forward to February, which Valentine's Day, shout out to that. But we do have two speakers. The morning session will be Petra Woodard. She is the Executive Director of Academic Counseling and Alternative Education. So she is going to share with us best practices for academic counseling, and especially this is good information during this time of that we're still in distance learning. So please join us for that. And then come back and join us for the afternoon session with Marissa Lightsey, who is the Executive Director of College and Career Readiness. And so she will share about ICAP implementation, how do we have the quality aspect of it, especially in the midst of a global pandemic and distance learning. Wonderful individuals who will come and just share their expertise and knowledge in that perspective. Again, these webinar series will be recorded And each of them, both current and past, you're able to find on okedge.com. When you get this slideshow, just click on that link and it'll take you to the direct page for you to access it there. I wanted to share a little bit about, if you're not familiar with the Office of Student Support, that is the office that I reside under. And we really focus on the whole child, whole school, whole community aspect, really that holistic approach. So we dive into the areas of prevention and intervention, the areas of academic counseling, the areas of counseling, social emotional learning, the areas of college and career readiness, alternative education, family and community engagement, and work-based learning. So a lot of good stuff that we have, amazing resources that we have been very intentional about getting to you, because we recognize that last year was a year like no other. So that link will take you directly to the Office of Student Support, so you can learn more about the whole entire team and how we serve you. And we are now going to proceed into our time of Q&A sessions. So I'll pull up the chat. I want to thank you so very much for joining. And we'll go through the questions, and I'll thank you again and say see you next month. So let's see if there's any questions for Beverly. You're welcome to input them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and feel free to ask her or myself any questions you may have. So far, I'm not seeing any questions, but Beverly, I'll toss a question out to you, because I know Mentor for Oklahoma does a lot of good things, both in the secondary level and the collegiate level. I'm curious, I know you talk based on a school district and gave a shout out. I'm curious to know, do you see any barriers to access when it comes to school districts getting connected with these mentorship programs?
To some degree, yes. Schools often think that it's too much work, that it will be one more thing added to the teachers' plates or the administrators' plates. And really, when you involve the community, it is not that bad. There are all these different models. For example, in El Reno, students striving for success. Yes, there are people involved from school, but there is a mentoring board, by and large, under the local education foundation. And they're the ones who make sure, they wrote the policy. The school approved it, of course, but they wrote the policy. They do the fundraising. They went out and recruited mentors. They really keep things going. So that's the ideal situation when you have community involved. But then again, there are some rural districts that almost do it entirely on their own.
That's very good perspective. And I'm just going to keep popcorning some questions at you. Since you talk based on the rural aspect, I know I hear sometimes from school districts, especially rural Oklahoma school districts, who don't have access to community or industry leaders. What is one piece of advice that you would share with them on how to get plugged in or get access in that way?
In rural communities, everyone in the neighborhood. If they're like Leedy, 435 people, they had a robust mentoring program for years. They created their own, but of course, COVID stopped things for a while. But again, they kept everything in the school because it's K through 12 in one building. But they reached out in the community and had various people mentor. And it might be somebody who works for an oil company or a gas company. It could be farmers, ranchers, homemakers. It could be somebody from the bank. I'm pretty sure there's a bank there. I've been there many times. I'm sorry. Not being negative. No. But again, you ask people in the community, can you spare somebody for an hour at lunch to come mentor, or 30 minutes, whatever. So size should not matter. It's trying to find that leader who will help organize it.
I love that you say find that leader who will help, because when I think about mentorship, I think about how, we're champions for that. It's not just at a school level, but I mentioned earlier how I've had mentors. I've been able to be a mentor at a school level, but to also have a mentor in my adult life, because I've learned that, we're always growing and changing. And sometimes you need someone who will say, hey, your thinking's not aligned correctly, or hey, did you think about this, or challenge and persuade you to continue to pursue your dreams, because sometimes things get challenging and hard, but when you have a champion in your corner, that makes it a little bit more easier. And I think that's why I love peer-to-peer mentorship, especially with students, because students will always keep it 100% and check you when you're out of line, but then they also are moldable and teachable and aspiring to be more. And so I just love being a champion for them in that regards. Anyone else have some questions for Beverly?
I might mention something. In some schools, there are mentor stories in which calling a mentor to come down because of bad behavior is much more threatening to a young person than calling a parent. They do not want to disappoint their mentor. And that's another thing, even professionally or in college, as you were saying, if an authority figure, even with some kind of relationship, starts correcting you, it's different. If you have built a trusting relationship with a mentor at any level, any age, and you know that they are there for you, they may tell you what you're doing wrong. But because you have this relationship and they know that you are supportive of them and want the best for them, and you listen, then you can achieve positive goals. But again, it can't just be an authoritarian person saying, oh, you're failing, you're doing whatever. You have to have that relationship.
I'm so glad you brought that up. It brought me to think about one of the young ladies that I have mentored in the past. She would not mind me sharing her story, but I, of course, will cover her name. But I had formed such a relationship with her that she got pregnant at 16, and she was more fearful to tell me as her mentor than she was to tell her parents. Mm-hmm. And I even remember that moment. And also remember that this young lady changed my whole perspective on how I move forward with mentoring and just giving of myself, which is good. I mean, I was young at the time mentoring her, but that fact that we had built such a solid relationship that she felt, she put me in a level of someone who cared enough for her that she was more fearful, again, of letting me down, disappointing me, which that was never going to be the case, because, I had nothing but love for her. But it's interesting that you brought that perspective up, because that is true. Once you form a relationship with someone, and we all know this, even in our adult ages, building a relationship, and even when you build a network with industry leaders, that takes time, and that takes giving of yourself, and vice versa. And so it leads me to another question with you, Beverly, is when I was just getting started in the realm of, engaging industry leaders, one thing that was always given to me was, what's your ask? Know your ask. So if you're talking to school districts, what is one piece of advice that you would tell them as they go out and start getting even more engagement with industry leaders, our community members in their local areas? How would you tell them to frame their ask, or maybe even their elevator pitch?
One of the things you start with in forming a mentoring program, or looking at, if you have one already, is what is the assessment of need? What is your target area? So figure out what that is. And that's what you base your program upon, your pitch upon. For example, in El Reno, it was reading scores. The reading scores were dismal. So although Students Striving for Success is a real mentoring program, they chose to incorporate a small amount of reading, and reading scores just skyrocketed for mentored kids. So again, it was relationship, but when they went out recruiting, it was about this, this is the state of our students in reading at such and such grade. This is what we want to change. And of course, now they have results. So what they do is they take the results out each year.
Very, very nice. Well, do we have any more, because I could go on and on talking to Beverly and asking her some questions, but do we have any more questions from the participants on the line today? I'm just giving a few moments. But as I'm giving those moments, I was really excited to have this conversation of mentorship because especially it fallen on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, or in that week of it, because he was a man of service and about giving back and about teaching those who will come after us. And so I always think of that regards of mentorship, and it's amazing. I already told you I'm a fan of mentorship. So it's just amazing what we can do for our students. And even as leaders in the schools, just to recognize that, we are mentors to them, whether we recognize that consciously or subconsciously, we always are being an example for others. And so always keep that at the forefront of my mind as well. But Beverly, doesn't look like we have any more questions, and I won't hold you all to hold you. But I just, again, want to thank you so very much for giving of your time, sharing more about National Mentorship Month and just Mentor for OK and the programs and the things that you do for students, both at the secondary level and at the collegiate level. And I also want to thank you all again for attending this our very first kickoff webinar series. If you missed the morning session, that was over internships, but again, that recording will be on OK Edge, so you can watch that and enjoy that as well. We hope and look forward to seeing you next month. And until then, I wish you all health and safety and wellness, and we will see you in February. Take care, everyone.